Good morning, mate. You alright? How are you? Righty then, Thursday. Off to the gym. 5k and some weights. Bright and early, crack of dawn. Got a dry one today. And we got some news. Some interesting news, and yeah, it's not quite hit the major outlets just yet. Again, might be early on it, might be a load of nonsense, who knows. But it was something nice to wake up to, something nice to talk about. So we're going to talk about it. That's what we're going to do. Right, so United have been with a move. I was genuinely wondering how long this was going to take. When I saw him get his England call up last week. Now, for a couple of reasons. Reason number one is it's someone new, someone shiny, and that means just link him to United if you want any sort of attention or people finding out who he is. Usually works. Genuinely, that's the game. You can be a Premier League footballer doing real good stuff in the Premier League and no one has a clue, and then you get linked with Manchester United and suddenly everybody has a clue. And I think that's kind of what's happened with Elliot Anderson. Been playing well. Been playing nice, tidy. There's a big truck coming. It's probably going to be annoying for the audio users. So, I'll read out what's been said about him and what the outlets are sort of saying. Now, it's your usual sort of aggregator accounts that are kind of saying it. But I'll give you the details. 22-year-old midfielder. Forest only signed him in 2024 for 35 million. They're talking up a 70 million double your money bid. From Manchester United, and it's ESPN, Sky Sports, SB Nation and Coming Home. So I don't know how many of them are legit. Again, it's one of them, and if there's anything to this, you'll start seeing it popping up in the other outlets. I'm trying to work out, no one's actually mentioned, because I think this is a very, very, very important detail here. Is this for January or is this for the end of the season? Because the end of the season is one thing. One, he's got to be thinking he could be at the World Cup. So that's going to add a complication to it. For January, he's got to be thinking, I could be ending up at the World Cup. So that also has to be a consideration. When you're having a good season and you've just been picked up by England, do you move to Manchester United in January and risk not going to a World Cup? Is it something that you can speak to the England manager about and be like, hey, listen, does moving at United increase or decrease my chances? Do you know what I mean? Now, in terms of his fit, I'm not sure how tall he is, you know. He feels around 6 foot, but I wouldn't say he's a big lad. He's got a way of breaking lines that reminds me a little bit of Michael Carrick, but I don't think he's... and now maybe this is because of... I didn't really pay much attention to him at Newcastle. Maybe because of the way that Forest under Nuno played was very direct, that they didn't hold the ball. Maybe he was asked and tasked to play the ball forward because he's been very good at playing the ball forward, breaking lines with the ball on the floor. Maybe he's been tasked with doing that and not any sort of sideways passing to sort of hold the ball. Because in my head, I still think United need to hold the ball better. I still think that we need a player that can get a grip of it and dictate the tempo of the game. Literally, I was talking about this Monday, I think, with Rio. The game was getting a little bit basketballish in the derby. And you could literally see Rodri go, "Oi, give me the ball." And then he made a couple of passes left and right. And then City went forward, had their chance, confused United a little bit and went and scored. And you're thinking, wow, that's why Rodri is the player that he is. That's the things that he's capable of doing. And there ain't a single player, like Mainu's got the potential to do it, but he doesn't do it. It's not to say that he couldn't do it, he just doesn't do it. It's certainly something that has to come with a little bit more experience. Could Anderson do that? Well, again, he doesn't do it, we don't see him do it, but is that because of how Nottingham Forest play? And then as I'm sitting there thinking this, as I've literally, the 10 thoughts come to my head the second I see him linked with United. Well, does he need to do that at United? Or would Ruben Amorim be pretty happy with him being the sort of midfielder that he's seen him be for Nottingham Forest? And then I kind of went, yeah, he probably would, to be honest. He probably would just be happy with him. From a defensive point of view, it's pretty good. Don't think he's like Baleba style monster. It's pretty good. Not quite full box to box midfielder, but I think he's nice on the ball. Would he improve United's play with it? Yeah, I think he would, to be genuinely honest with you. I do think he would. I think he would improve our on-the-ball play. Now, whether this is January or whether this is end of the season, I think tells you, one, if it's January, then there's clearly a desire from the current football board to back Ruben Amorim to the hilt. There just is. If it's summer, it might mean that maybe the cash flow's not quite there for it, or it might mean that the situation's a lot more relaxed than it feels from the outside. Because it feels from the outside quite panicky, doesn't it? Like, Jesus Christ, we need someone, and we need him now. We need him right now. So if they're waiting until January, even, January's obviously the quickest we could get it done, the fact that this rumour has appeared now in September, you would hope that means that they're trying to get this over the line in January. And if they're trying to get this over the line in January, that's because they're trying to back Ruben Amorim and not sack Ruben Amorim. Or maybe they just think this is the sort of profile of player that we want at the club, regardless of who the manager is. That's also, you know, a slight possibility. Now, I did see the financial reports yesterday, and I think the most interesting thing in the financial reports was that United were basically financially forecasting a Europa League finish for this season, or competing in Europa League next season. So that is interesting, because I think that tells you potentially what the metrics of Ruben Amorim's task is for this season. Get United back into Europe. But Europa League will do. Now, is he capable of doing that? Like I said yesterday, I've lost faith. There's so many, and I knew it'd happen. There's so many people just completely get the wrong end of the stick. Or, this happens a lot as well. People reply to a title of what can be a 15-20 minute video with nuance and arguments for and against something. People reply to a 20-minute video title with stuff you already answered, angrily typed with stuff you already answered within the video. Now, like I said in yesterday's video, that I've lost faith in the manager. The reason for me just because you lost to Manchester City? No. I was confident going into the game, but I didn't think it was a game that he had to win. And it wasn't a game that I would base my decision making about the manager on, like whether he won or lost at Manchester City. It's more the case that, as I've pointed out, the attacking metrics have improved. The goal scoring has not, but the metrics have. But I wasn't talking, that wasn't the reason I'd lost faith. The reason I'd lost faith was the defensive side of stuff. The stuff that I spent like a whole week watching Crystal Palace do to a better degree. That hasn't changed. United are very open, very easy to play against. And there was obvious, straightforward ways to remedy and fix that that he didn't enact in the derby. That's what's making me lose faith. Like, we are just basically going, same again, bang. I'm not seeing the tweaks. I'm not seeing the changes. I'm seeing us improving our metrics with the ball, more touches in the opposition box, more shots. But there's no control. There is less control, and there is way more vulnerability when we don't have the ball and we're being attacked. That's what's making me lose the faith, and the fact that he's not learning from those things and adapting. You know, here's the thing. It isn't just a case of does his philosophy work in Portugal and not work in England. What can work in England this season might not work next season. The league evolves. You have to adapt. At the start of last season, we saw teams that had decided to go man pressing rather than try and let you have the ball with your centre halves. That used to be the thing. No one used to press aggressively every single time the centre halves and goalkeeper looking for a high turnover. That didn't happen. At the start of last season, there was a jump. In the first 6 weeks, there was like 12 goals. From 12 extra goals from players being pressed in those areas. It was a literal tactical shift across a league. And that's probably rare. You probably couldn't point to loads of other instances outside of that. A big one would have been, following on, I'm talking about the 90s again. Yeah, well, I know it, so I'll allow it. There was a few very obvious tactical shifts happened in the... That's easily explained, at least. You can all look at these and go, oh yeah, fair one. What happened initially? English football was a very rigid 4-4-2, okay? Following the advent of the Premier League, United signed Cantona to play in his kind of own number 10-ish position, even though it was still listed as 4-4-2 for the longest time. Dwight York was a number 10, right? But they always listed him and Cole as a partnership. Dwight York played in the half spaces and he operated off Andy Cole. He just did, right? But Cantona was the first guy to do that. Certainly at United, certainly at a big club. It was genuine partnerships outside of that. Big man, little man. One that wins the header, one that's more of a ratter, fox in a box type of guy. But it was a genuine 4-4-2 partnership, because you would be looking at spam balls into the box with crosses. Cantona played in between the lines and United tried to hold possession and play football. But we weren't on our own. You then saw the likes of Middlesbrough bring in Janino, Chelsea bring in Zola, and there was players then that started to operate in between the lines as genuine number 10s. 4-4-1-1. Then the next tactical shift was it stopped becoming 4-4-1-1, and then in the early sort of 2000s, Jose Mourinho, Rafa Benitez, they changed that 4-4-1-1, which everyone was playing, including United, still. Paul Scholes was kind of being played off Ruud van Nistelrooy a little bit. We changed that, everybody changed that, to go with 3 out-and-out midfielders. 4-3-3. And there's been obviously a ton of other tactical shifts since then. The passing out from the back, that has become the norm. Several other things have become the norm. But, you know, the tactics shift, and you can't just be like, well, this is how I'm going to play and you lot figure it out. It don't work like that. You have to be adaptable. You have to be able to change your tactics. Because even if you stay in Manchester United job, there might be a tactical shift within the league at the start of next season that you need to adapt to. And you can't just be like, well, it doesn't fit what I'm trying to do, so we're not doing that. No, your job is to find a way to win. The framework and your game model and how you do that, that's on you. But you don't have to abandon your principles to find a way to win. But we do have to be a bit more defensively solid. I think the first thing you've got to be as a football team is hard to beat. Because the less goals you concede, the less you need to score to go and win a game. And ultimately, at the professional level, it is about winning. It's not about youth development, it's not about enjoyment, it's not about participation, it's about fucking winning. So, we need to win. Anyway, if this Elliot Anderson thing is legit, if it starts to develop, if there's more and more news about it, I will do a tactical deep dive where we look at what's being said about him and his FB ref scores and the actual data about what sort of player he is, his progressive passes, his tackles, blocks, clearances, interceptions, all that sort of stuff. I'll do a full deep dive on that. I ain't doing that on the back of a quick little rumour like this, so we will just see how it goes. But my gut instinct is it's probably a little rhubarb because he's just been given his debut for England and people will probably expect him to play in the next group of internationals. But if there is anything in it, my gut instinct is, well, I kind of like it. I think he improves United's midfield. He definitely suits playing in the double pivot a little bit better than what we've got right now. So that's my thoughts on that. Either way, like I said, it's Thursday. Get after it. I'm up early. I got my steps in. I'm off to the gym. 5k and then some weights. A busy old day at work. A lot of meetings today. About stuff exciting? Nah, maybe. Maybe not. I went to this Bezial FC thing last night in town. We just dropped the new range of stuff. Some pretty smart gear, you know. The footy boots. All them went before I got my hands on them. And it was literally like 50 people in there. I don't know how many they brought, but they didn't bring enough. But yeah, man, stack the wins, attack the day. And if today ain't your day, well, there's always tomorrow, isn't there? Nice one, man. Take it easy. See you in a bit.